Do you see my screen now?
Yes, we see, Marika.
Thank you. The effectiveness of modern musical education is inconceivable without digital technologies. This is due to both to the specificity of the sound material, I mean electronic and digital music and instruments, etc., and to the digital orientation of the modern user, and consequently to the digitalization of the learning and teaching processes. Nowadays, a large number of different digital resources are involved in the practice of musical teaching. I mean, websites, different programs, or mobile applications for professional musicians or for amateurs. Some of them also facilitate the study of musical theoretical disciplines. The need to use technological resources in the teaching of musical theoretical disciplines became particularly evident during the pandemic, when the learning process shifted to a remote mode. Nowadays, in the post-pandemic period, no one doubts that when working on musical listening skills, it's recommended to use a special multimedia tool, computer programs or mobile applications designed for the development and improvement of musical hearing. This problem was also revealed at the Tbilisi State Conservatoire, where I'm working at the music theory department, when it suddenly turned out that the only way to teach was online learning. I would like to note that at that time, e-learning was not so developed and implemented at our conservatoire, which also created a problem. From my own experience, it became clear that the challenges of distance learning were particularly evident in the discipline of ear training, solfeggio, where compared to other theoretical courses, the greatest emphasis is placed on practical work. All this determines the relevance of the topic of my presentation. The aim of it is to present the most important digital capabilities intended for the development of musical hearing in general and microtonal hearing in particular. Based on my own pedagogical practice, I will present recommendations and a critical analysis of various digital resources. There are many electronic resources created for development of different aspects of musical hearing and designed for different target groups. If you search for such programs on the internet, you will find a lot of them, but not all of them are effective and versatile for the development of musical hearing. There are programs that more or less cover different aspects of musical hearing. For example, such program is Music Theory Net. As you can see here, this program allows you to work on developing intervals, mode, rhythmic, and harmonic hearing, basics of the music theory. Separately, there are programs that only developed rhythmic hearing. For example, so you can see on the screen the list of such programs. And a separate site should be distinguished for I/O. Here you can find various exercises, rhythmic dictations, and tests. The site also contains exercises of polarism. Some sites are designed for beginners. For example, this site was the Root Trainer. Of this site is a website which provides simpler rhythm formulas. I think the use of digital oldest musical systems based on intervals smaller than a semitone is very important. This ancient system has not only withstood the challenges of the centuries, but since the 20th century has evolved with unprecedented diversity and is still relevant today. As is well known, microtonality is found in traditional Asian music. It was also used in the music of the ancient Greeks and the Roman Empire, where three types of intervals were widespread: diatonic, chromatic, and enharmonic. After this period, microchromatism or microtonality was somehow forgotten. An understanding practice was the so-called musica ficta, common in European professional music of the 13th to 16th centuries, where the performer could add additional unrecorded notes while playing. Interest in microtones has been observed in European music since the 16th century, when interest in the use of modal chromaticism and the search for new sounds in motets and madrigals intensified. Worthy of note are the works of Nicola Vicentino, who demonstrated the possibility of using ancient Greek modes in musical practice and presented a 36-tone temperament. He also created a harpsichord with a large number of additional keys. Archiorgano, you can see it on the screen, in which 36 tones were placed in the octave. You can listen how it sounds. With the establishment of tonality, microchromatism or microtonality was again eclipsed for 300 years. In the first decade of the 20th century, the idea of overcoming equal temperament spread to different continents and countries. The Czech Republic with experiments of Alois Haba in America, Charles Ives in Italy, Ferruccio Busoni, and etc. Obviously, the different principles of the new temperament required specific means of sound, which were unusual for the previous musical practice. Accordingly, the idea of updating the instrumentation also became relevant. Microtonal music can be played on any untempered instrument. Therefore, many works of this type are written for wind and string instrument. It is more difficult to realize it for singing. This kind of performance requires a lot of practice and knowledge, specific skills. On the other hand, various types of microtonal instruments are being invented, the structure of which would be suitable for a particular tuning. Among them are, for example, Vishnegradsky's quarter-tone piano, Avramos polychord, Ogolevic's 17 and 29 step keyboard instruments, Schuller's quarter-tone clarinet, Focker's organ with 31 notes in an octave, and etc. Microtonality is present in the world's tradition, academic and jazz music. It requires a particularly refined ear from the performer, the development of which is traditionally ineffective in a teaching system based on the major-minor system. In this respect, it is particularly important to use the possibilities of the modern digital age. In the process of working on musical hearing, it is desirable to use a special electronic multimedia tool, computer program, or mobile application designed for the development of microtonal hearing. Microtonality has become especially relevant in the process of bringing various ethnic music to the forefront. Nowadays, microtonal patterns are being created in both academic and non-academic music and are represented in the traditional music of various nations. Accordingly, we believe that the development of microtonal hearing in modern times should be taken into account in the standard cycle of musical education in Georgia, which is based on the major-minor system. It is especially relevant in the study of the music of various ethnocultures, as evidenced by the appearance of works devoted to this issue in recent decades and, most importantly, the creation of special electronic resources in this direction. As the study has shown, most of the electronic devices and mobile phone applications related to microtonal hearing sought to study a variety of sound sequences and rhythmic patterns. Considering the electronic program created for Android for similar purposes, Professor Marina Karasova distinguished two groups. First group, program a musical instrument, the so-called instrument simulators. And second one, program model thesaurus as audiovisual simulators created for mastering new models of modes. Such programs contribute to the mastery of the music of a particular culture, although they are not always related to microtonality. In this regard, we were interested in those ethnically oriented programs in which microtonality is presented in one form or another. It is impossible to present all of these programs in this short report, so I will mention only a few of them and offer my own vision of using and introducing a similar approach in Georgia. Based on the research problem, applications that help master Indian ragas are particularly noteworthy and useful. In this regard, we will highlight, for example, the mobile application, Carnatic Raga. Its use is particularly useful for mastering the variability of the mode. It can also be used to develop an operational musical memory. The application contains up to 1,000 sound sequences, variants of Indian scales, modes. Listening to them and directly repeating them is useful for developing pure intonation and musical memory. The application Bhima-Tampura application offers interesting possibilities where the user is given the opportunity to make a 1 cent distance between neighboring sounds in the Tampura accompaniment. Applications whose main purpose is to help us set up instruments, that is, to offer us a set of different instruments, are worth mentioning separately. In this regard, I would like to highlight the internal tuner application, which work on both Android and iOS systems. The authors of these offer a variety of microtonal tones, including 12-tone, 19-tone, 21-tone, 22, 31, and others. The ability to play these tones in unison helps those who want to develop microtonal intonation hearing to improve their skills. In addition, dozens of individual microtonal tones are presented in the Tuner Trainer iOS application. Of course, the benefits of such applications are undeniable. Even listening to microtonal tones multiple times and intoning them, you hear helps to further refine microtonal hearing. Most of the mobile applications created today do not serve the development of a microtonal solfeggio course. We are methodically thought out and systematized exercises or material arranged according to certain principle would be presented. For the most part, they are applications with various practical purposes that promote the study of the traditional music of a particular country, such as Greek, Chinese, Indian, etc., where microtonal music is dominant. In some cases, the mastering of a particular folk instrument, offering us mathematically precise sound sequences of various arrangements, mainly to help us set up a particular instrument. I think that today the need for a digital component to be more involved in national music education has matured. While there are many computer programs and mobile applications in different languages created for the development of musical hearing in general, there is still no electronic resource with a similar function in the Georgian language. Moreover, there are no specific electronic resources created for the development of microtonal hearing. However, Georgian traditional music, vocal and instrumental music, provides the basis and a kind of impetus for the creation of electronic resources for the development of musical hearing loaded with various contents and functions, including for the development of microtonal hearing. As we can see, in modern music education, it is necessary to pay special attention to microtonal hearing. It is desirable that this process begins not only at the conservatory, but from childhood. The use of microtonal solfeggio is reflected in two directions. First, for those interested in Georgian tradition, folk and church music. Microtonal solfeggio should be available from the very beginning of musical education. After all, major-minor thinking is essentially aligned to traditional music. Second, in the case of classical music education, I think that microtonal solfeggio should be offered at least at the higher educational level as a means of mastering the complicated musical system resulting from the complication of the major-minor system and total chromaticization. I think there should be a separate ethnic solfeggio course where the emphasis is on microtonal music making, not only Georgian, but also on world traditional musical patterns. Today, the music theory department of the Tbilisi State Conservatoire has begun to use a digital component in the solfeggio course. The challenges of the pandemic also gave an impetus to this. In addition, for the second year in a row, a paid solfeggio program called Year Master has been implemented in a number of specialties of the conservatoire, which helps students develop the general major, minor, and modal musical hearing. The next step in this direction, in my opinion, should be the introduction of a microtonal solfeggio course, which will be beneficial for students of all specialties, and especially for students of the performing faculty. What could be an obstacle in this way? The lack of technical readiness of the users of these applications or programs. For example, they do not have the appropriate equipment, or they have it, but they have difficulties using specialized applications. The lack of readiness to face similar challenges as a teacher who has been working for years with the old, proven standard methodology. The field of activity of the musician, perhaps, for example, performance plays only major, minor music, or when performing folk samples, he or she relies on the so-called European style of performance, not considering the need to take into account authentic performance. Why should not there be Georgian language applications that promote the development of hearing, or that can be used for playing Georgian folk instruments, for group music in the classroom, or for improvisation? In our opinion, modern technological and digital possibilities will help us to recover the forgotten musical language tested by our ancestors, to study, understand, and perform national melodies in the same order as we hear them in audio recordings from about a century ago. At the same time, we will understand and correctly perform the microtonal patterns created in the academic professional music of the 20th and 21st century. Thank you for your attention.